The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers. United Chargers presents the Grizzly range of EV chargers. There's the original Grizzly Classic, a powerful, heavy-duty, portable EV charging station built to withstand the toughest conditions. The Grizzly Duo, a dual-port unit designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a small portable charging station built with an indoor-outdoor rated cast aluminium enclosure. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. All Grizzly chargers come with a convenient 24-foot cable and the ability to adjust the current from 16 amps all the way up to 40 amps. That's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, they're IP67 rated. Built in Canada with the highest quality materials. Order yours now at unitedchargers.com. That's unitedchargers.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's January the 26th, 2024, and this is episode number 21. Thank you very much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about the global debut of the electric Porsche Macan, Tom's visit to Lucid's newly expanded factory, and the first teaser of its next product, and the new Tesla timeline for its next generation low-cost product. And of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Yoni, host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic, and joining us today is the vivacious Mr. Tom Malogny, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. And of course, Kyle O'Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Autospec Studios, where he produces high-voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels. Good to see you. Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Morning. Hello.
All right. Your mic might be a bit loud there. But so Martin can't be with us today, so we're just going to motor on and just jump right into it, I guess, right? So actually, first, Kyle, where are you?
I am in Nashville today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Lots of goings on over there?
Well, we got actually, so I flew into Memphis and I grabbed. So anyway, long story short, I saw a really good lease special on a VinFast VF8, and I thought this would make a great story. This would be interesting. Let's get one for 3 years and do a long term, because to me,
3 years,
it's
that's a commitment. Holy cow.
Well, we could just give it back if we don't like it. Just pay out the lease and say, this didn't work out. Okay. But I think it would make for interesting content. It's a car that certainly VinFast wasn't going to let us have for a long period of time. So I thought, let's go buy one. Let's play around with it and see what that's like. And I thought, okay, well, I got enough cars in the driveway, but Francie runs the Out of Spec podcast, and she's doing, twice a day episodes on that show. I was like, why don't you do a monthly VinFast series and just talk about what it's like to live with a VF8? Because it's a nice looking car from the outside. It's actually not a bad looking car. It's just when I drove it, it was the biggest pile of hot garbage I've been in maybe ever. It was really bad. So I thought, okay, VinFast LinkedIn me, some random guy who works there recently. He's like, we've made a lot of updates. You should go check it out. And so the whole buying process so far has been one hell of a story. So we already have so many episodes. I won't bore you with that. But we grabbed a Model Y in Memphis, and that's where Francie lives. And we were driving to Raleigh so we could race them both back to Memphis just to see how, a little race to Vegas style. But we got a flat tire on the highway. So we're stuck in Memphis, and we're at the Tesla service center right over here, and they're replacing the tire. The road fell apart. And it wasn't just us. There were 100 cars that had flat tires. It was crazy.
Oh. Okay, it was a Model Y, I guess, that had the flat tire. So that's a $249, $1,000 down kind of VF8 deal. Was that the deal?
It's zero down.
Zero down.
$249 a month. But that means you have to pay. I don't know. We're just doing a one pay lease, just so it does. We're just paying it all up front. We'll have to get the sheet when we get to the dealer as to what it would be. I think it's $600 up front or $500 up front, and then it's $249 a month. And yeah, I don't know. I said if she really, really hates it, we'll send it up to Out of Spec Dave, and she can get, I don't know, a Model Y or something reasonable.
Right. Kyle, what's the mileage that you get on that lease? What's the annual mileage?
It's 10,000 a year. It's not bad.
10,000.
Okay. I mean,
we'll go over it. It doesn't matter.
I got to borrow it from you at some point. If you're having 3 years, I'm going to grab that. I'll give you one of my cars. Give Francie one of my cars for a week.
Okay, yeah. Be a good reason to go to Memphis. Any excuse is a good excuse to go to Memphis, I think. But
Yeah, Memphis is fun, but so the drive will be good. So today, I mean, the Tesla already called us, and normally, the car was towed in last night. It got there at like 10 o'clock p.m. or something, and they called us at like 7 a.m. They're like, "We're on it," and by the end of the show, I think we'll be on the road. And it was pretty good.
Oh, nice. All right. So usually when we do the show, we share we share good mornings from y'all. So sorry, I've dropped the ball because Martin is not here today, so I'll do this now as I read our intro. So let's talk about our first story. Get right into it. Lots to talk about today. So let's talk about the debut of the Porsche Macan. So this debut is no surprise. Kyle here has driven a pre-production version and even did a preliminary range test with also he's ridden around the track in the passenger seat with a professional test pilot, giving it the full beans. What else? Last week, he got to crawl through the finished product inside and out and even underneath the bodywork. And that video went up yesterday to coincide with the world premiere. And I can't remember enough if you're hungry for the nerd level 9,000 details. For those who haven't watched that video, here are some quick Porsche Macan facts. It's built on the premium platform electric with 800-volt architecture, but it can also split that pack internally. So it's basically two 400-volt packs in series for a fast charging experience on lower voltage DC chargers. Speaking of charging, peak charging power is 270 kilowatts, and it can charge from 10 to 80% in 21 minutes. Peak power on a 400-volt charger is 135 kilowatts, or half of that, of course. EPA range isn't yet available, but real-world range should be comfortably above 300 miles. Macan launches with two trims, the Macan 4, a base dual-motor trim, and turbo, the top trim. Macan 4 makes 300 kilowatts, 402 horsepower. It can do 4.9 seconds 0 to 60. That's with the overboost power. So it's got, I think, a 10-second power boost on that. So that's the numbers with that boost included. And the turbo can get up to 630 horsepower with that boost button down, and can do 3.1 second 0 to 60. So Kyle, there's a lot more to this car than numbers. I'm not sure even how to start this, but what do you think potential customers need to know about the new Macan?
Well, first thing, can you dial up your mic a little bit, because you're just a bit quiet?
Oh, how's that? Is that better?
Much better.
Okay.
And I think I had mine set too loud, so we're sorry for the amateur hour over here.
And mine is just right.
Yeah, Tom,
it's like the
you're Goldilocks, Tom.
Goldilocks.
But still, Tom, you're a lot louder than Dom on my side. So anyway, the Macan Electric is one of the most important Porsches for the brand, of course, and the collaboration with Audi and PPE makes it a bit of a compromise in some areas, and it's certainly not going to be the Taycan killer that I think a lot of people were hoping or maybe expecting it to be. It's certainly priced lower. So like in terms of a lot of things, the Taycan's more special. The Macan's going to be more mass market, but it's still really nice, really nice. So I'm actually looking forward to the Cayenne Electric coming in a little bit, because that'll be a real large SUV, and the rumors are there'll be an even bigger, like ultra luxury, Porsche that's electric SUV thing, which is like against the brand. People are like, Porsche's dying, but whatever, it'll work. And
it's a Porsche Escalade.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I mean, the car is built for fast traveling. That's what I like. It's 270 kilowatt charging deep in the pack to at least 50 or 60%. And then it kind of comes down after that, but it's still reasonable. And then, pretty efficient. I did 322.5 miles with 1% remaining on sort of a range taste, not so much a standardized range test, because this was just more of an experience, or the way that we phrased it, because we did hit some traffic, but I had no opportunity to redo the test. That was interesting. And honestly, I think for most people, the Macan 4 is all you need. It's got 400 horsepower. It's same power as Volvo XC40 Recharge and C40 Recharge, and everyone says those are fast. And so there you go. But you can also get, I think it's 470 kilowatts peak in the Macan Turbo. That's the jam. That is awesome. So that's 500 and something horsepower. I'm not sure. So anyway, The front of it looks great. The back of it, not my thing, but some people like it. The interior is pretty spacious in comparison to the outgoing combustion Macan. And overall, I really, I'm of course into it because it's a car built for road tripping, and that's what I like.
Right, it's got that fast charge speeds and a great curve, right?
Great curve, really good curve.
So 21 minutes might sound like it's longer than, let's say, the eGMP platform, but this is a larger battery, so it's just gonna take a longer time to charge, basically, right?
Sure.
Is my mic okay now? Is that okay? I just got caught up with all the comments and I'm saying, oh, I guess people have been telling me to turn up my mic for a while.
Yeah, got to keep your eye with the viewers.
Yeah. All right. So, Tom, you had a chance to look at the Macan yet? You have some thoughts?
Not really. I've been busy. I saw pieces of Kyle's video. I haven't watched the whole thing.
Okay.
And I did see, I've seen the pre-production Macans in the past over in Germany. So I'm not surprised by, anything about the visually. I have to get Kyle from I had 2 or 3 people reach out to me and tell me, oh, Kyle's Macan video was awesome. You have to watch it. So I recommend who's ever not seen that, go out and see it. Evidently, Kyle did a great job on it. I haven't watched it yet, but it's on the list for today. I did a lot of traveling this week, which we'll get into later. And but yeah, no, the Macan was always on my radar as a possible next vehicle. I mean, a lot of the EVs are, as you can tell, and it's still on the radar. Once it's available, once it's here, once there's not a waiting list for them. That might be one of the vehicles that ends up in my driveway because I don't need a really big SUV. I like having SUVs here just for the functionality. And to be honest with you, the R1S is more vehicle than what I need. But everything I've seen about it, I would fit right in my wheelhouse. So yeah, I think it's good. And maybe after I watch Kyle's video today, I'll be contacting my local Porsche dealership and asking if I can get in line.
I mean, I think Meredith would really like this. I mean,
I have her penciled in for the EX30. So I don't know.
Those are opposite ends of the spectrum here.
I know, but she really, we're of like minds. Like we typically like small vehicles. I love my Mini Cooper. I love my i3. Both of them, not the Mini, the Mini E as much, Meredith, because it was really an experimental vehicle that broke down a lot, and she didn't like that aspect of it. But you can't blame her. But yeah, I think, and as I said, and I've said on the show now, she runs out and grabs the bolt all the time. And when you've got the R1S sitting there next to it, which is a premium luxury, beautiful, like excellent SUV, she hops in that bolt and drives it. And I think she's going to love the EX30. But yeah, this wouldn't be something that she wouldn't like to drive. So, but we'll see. A lot of options, and that's what I like to see. We're getting all different flavor now with electric vehicles. Years ago, it was like, you had Teslas, and then you had these little EVs that went 120 miles. And now we're getting all the sizes and shapes and flavors and spices, which is great. We just still don't have that $28,000 EV. That's why I'm so disappointed the Bolt EV is going away. But we'll talk about later in the show. Maybe we are getting that vehicle sooner than later. So yeah, I can't wait to watch your whole video, Kyle. I had a couple people reach out to me, in my friends and network and say, oh, Kyle nailed it with that Macan video. So definitely watch it, everybody, if you haven't seen it yet.
That's so funny because I thought it was like one of the worst videos I've done because I was like showed up at the studio and I had to like read notes because I do the thing with Porsche and these shoots is they don't really tell you about the car until you get there and they're like, okay, go film it. And so yeah, gotta like.
I hate when that happens, when you don't get it ahead of time. A lot of times when Kyle and I do these press events, sometimes a week before we'll get all the details and we're ready when we show up. We know all the stats and everything. Then there's sometimes you land and you're there and you go to your hotel and you're asking the PR people, when am I getting the stats? I need to shoot this video in like 20 minutes. Oh, it'll be in your email box. It'll be in. And then like you're on your way to shoot a video and it pops up in your email box, 6 pages of info that you have to digest. But And the one thing that I'm going to call you out a little bit on, Kyle's, you always say this. It seems like whenever I say, that was an awesome video, you're like, yeah, it wasn't a video that I really wasn't I don't think I did a good job on it. So just, whenever you don't think you did a good job, it's a good job, because those seem to be the videos I like most. So.
That's funny. Yeah, because I was like, damn, I sound like I'm half asleep. This sucks. But anyway, I filmed this maybe a month or two ago. And really good time. And honestly, that car has left my memory by the time this video went up. It's one of those things that I edited and now I got to move on to the next things.
Oh yeah.
And I watched it on the drive over yesterday. While we were sitting on the side of the road getting a flat tire. That was like my first time watching it through, and I was like, "Oh, this car rocks! It's so cool." So the whole first of all, greenwashing isn't the right term, but voltage washing is. This is not an 800 volt car, and Kia does the same thing with the EV9, which is not an 800 volt car with the large battery. In this case, it's like a 670 volt nominal system. And then it's 7 something full. I mean, we can say it's in the class of 800 volts, but it's like, I think that kind of sets some people up for failure, especially from a charging side, because we always say voltage times amperage equals your power. But if you're multiplying everything times 800 volts, it doesn't work in this case. Anyway, cool car, really interesting shared collaboration between Audi and Porsche. It's going to underpin the Q6 e-tron, the A6 Avant, whatever they're going to call that, and a few other cool cars. And from my perspective, nice to launch with the sportiest car on this platform, at least for now. We'll see what happens in the future. But this thing's got it's got the solid mounted rear motor that's flipped 180 degrees, 5 degrees of rear steering, 95 kilowatt hours of usable energy. Is it? I think. Although I did see on the website, someone mentioned, I think it was EVKX, who is a great battery nerd. They mentioned 96.8 kilowatt hour usable was posted somewhere. So maybe they're just saying 95 and it's actually 96.8. But of course, there's always variances as how you can get the energy out of the car. So it's not a consistent number. And then I got to drive the prototype, which is not maybe 100% representative of the what I will experience when I drive the series production one for the first time. But even that was just awesome. And so I can qualify it with saying the prototype drive was awesome. I don't know what the series production car will drive like, but I'm sure everyone will be pleased. Just from my experience riding passenger seat around the track, it's drifty, it's sporty, it's not that fast in a straight line. Maybe I'm just spoiled, but and also the price, Dom, we should mention, it's pretty reasonable. It's under 80 grand starting.
Below 80. It's like, well, I think once you had the transportation and tax on that, the whatever dealer fee, it goes a little over 80. But
yeah, and you put some headlights and windshield wipers because it's a Porsche. You got to option everything. You're into this, like a nice one for like mid 90s. We'll get you a nice Macan, and that's not bad. That's an all-wheel drive 400 horsepower hot hatch, basically.
I saw
a big hot hatch.
I saw you can get it up to $140,000.
You can get it up to 170, I think, if you spec everything.
Oh, really? The configurator is online. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but the configurator is online. Somebody was asking us about the charge ports, because this one has, as you can see in the picture, has 2 charge ports going on. These are, and you explained this in the video. One is CCS on the driver's side, and on the far side, it's just J1772. But is this coming to market with the NACS?
It probably won't launch with NACS, is my guess, but it will. Okay. Porsche's committed, along with the rest of the Volkswagen group, to North American charging standard. What we don't know is, will one side be NACS and the other side be CCS? Because that would actually be pretty convenient.
Yeah. Well, I think I want NACS on both sides. I was a little disappointed I saw the CCS on one and just the J70. I'd like to have DC charging capability on both sides. I mean, how much more could it cost? $100? How much more?
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever seen a car with dual DC inlets other than a semi truck.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, like the Freightliner E-Cascadia is the only thing that comes to mind that has 2 CCS inlets.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, look, more ports the better from my side.
Yeah, but I disagree with you, Dom. If there's going to be 2 charge ports like that, I want a CCS and an NACS. So I don't have to carry around an adapter and deal with that. If they were going to do that, the redundancy of having the two NACS ports, I think the use case for that is so small. Like if you can't reach, if a cable can't reach at one specific time, or anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Right. I was just thinking in a garage, maybe you have, I don't know. It just gives you more options. You can pull up and plug it in and get fast charging either way. But what else is it we need to know about this? It has a super low seating position, which is something that you talk about a lot. And I was surprised they mentioned that in the videos, in their own promotional videos, Porsche does. So that's pretty cool. And you mentioned the rear steering.
That's actually interesting because that was not in any of the materials I got. It was so interesting to watch how Porsche launched this car, by the way. They launched it in Singapore around, it was 90% about an art experiment and 10% about the Macan. And I'm like, what is happening to Porsche? This is so lame.
I mean, there's a commercial on the Porsche YouTube channel. That's all they really have. Well, they have some, videos leading up to the debut, but since the debut, they've just got a minute and a half, just a promotional video. You see some shots of the car, but there's fashion shows going on and different. I don't know.
That sounds more BMW than Porsche.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on, but whatever. It's the car is what's important, and that's what we have here on the screen. So with the bodywork all off there, what else should we be looking at when we get a chance to see a chassis like this? What should we be looking for, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, this is where you break down the subcomponents of the vehicle. And, the Macan is still designed and engineered sort of in a old school, very iterative process way where you have teams of people working on each area of the vehicle. And then Dr. Robert Meyer, who I'm speaking to here, he's director of the complete vehicle. So his team kind of brings the whole package together for a well-honed thing. I think the difference from my perspective, and again, I don't know much, but when I talk to Tesla engineers or Lucid engineers, the powertrain guy sits next to the software guy who sits next to the battery guy. And at Porsche, it seems very segmented. And then you have another team to bring it all together versus a lot of these startups that are really developing the car as one holistic package together. And I think also the collaboration with Audi, we all know Macan was delayed massively, but the collaboration with Audi, I can only imagine slowed things down. I asked some of the engineers, I'm like, was it a pain in the ass working with those guys? And of course they were very, very nice. And no, the Audi colleagues were great and they took on certain things. But my impression reading between the lines is that PPE is mostly Porsche. They just said, we're just going to do this thing. And I'm sure the Audi guys are going to get mad at me for saying that, but that's just my impression talking to the Porsche guys. I'm going to go over and learn about Q6 e-tron soon in maybe a month or two. And I'm sure the Audi guys will tell me the Porsche guys did nothing. So will be kind of interesting to see how that all plays out. But ultimately, the Macan is, for an electric SUV, it is now the sportiest choice. It has plenty of power, plenty of driving dynamics, pretty good styling, especially from the front, and you can option it. That's always the fun part about a Porsche, is you can spec it exactly how you want. And Porsche owners love that. I mean, if you put it on paper against a Model Y Performance, well, the Model Y Performance is going to be a lot cheaper, but it's also not going to be nearly, as much car as the Macan, but still better software in the Tesla and all of these things. Just nicer interface, better app, even though that's all been improved to the Macan. Again, it's still, they're lacking that final 10% of software and updates and, that interactive experience. So this is built for driving enthusiasts who need an electric SUV, or for maybe a driving enthusiast partner who's not so interested in cars, so they can then steal it on the weekends. I think we're going to see no lack of sales. It's priced right. It looks right. It's got the right specs. It's got huge range, huge charging. And I think they achieved everything they needed to do for this car, which is a really important car.
Right. I love that front end where you are right now. I think that looks really great. One question I have, you just used the remote to remotely open the frunk, but then you manually closed it. So does it just remotely open and then you have to slam it down?
Yeah, and this was a real annoying thing for me, which is okay, I can get over the I have to close the frunk thing. It's just the layout of the key is different than the Taycan. And so the buttons are all in the wrong place on this key. So the topmost button, if you reach into your pocket, which you would think would lock the car, is that opens the front trunk. So you're going to get these false openings.
Oh, no.
That's weird. Why would they change something like that? You would think the fobs should be relatively consistent across the brand, because Porsche owners tend to own more Porsches, and like you would want the fob to kind of that memory, when you reach in your pocket, just like you say, you don't want to have to pull it out and look which car am I driving today, which button is going to unlock the door. That's not good.
Yeah, and I confirmed the other models will stick with the old key. So I wonder if this is an Audi thing, why this particular car has a different key. It looks like a Porsche key, but maybe the internals, I don't know, but it definitely was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was really, if we're complaining about the button layout on a key, they did a pretty good job on the car. Let's just, and to be honest, it's not like this is the most class leading technological exercise. This is we're not talking about maybe Lucid gravities, power density, weight density, all that stuff. This is a car that is focused on handling dynamics, thermal management, and it's built by a large automaker, and they nailed it for their goals.
Right. Someone's asking here, and this could relate actually to the Macan, but unrelated. But this has Taycan software improved significantly since it first launched?
It is improved minorly.
Minorly, okay. So they're not as big on the software updates. I think they probably would say their philosophy is to get it right the first time. I bet.
Yeah, but then they don't, and then you got to bring it to a dealer. I mean, this is the stuff, like hanging out with the Porsche engineers is amazing because they care about all the stuff I care about from a driving perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I can I was talking to them recently about a product I can't talk about yet, but I'm like, we were talking about temperature ranges of a feature. And I'm like, well, I would prefer the temperature range to be here. And they're like, interesting. Yeah. But we ran this study and maybe you're right. And like, well, let's go back and adjust. And I'm like, okay, cool. We can get super nerdy. But then when I'm like, I also don't want to have to bring my $100,000 Porsche to a dealership to get an update. Can you just beam it? Tesla's been doing it since 2012. And they're like, yeah, nah, we can't do that. Just not possible. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, we can do some updates over the air. But I'm like, no, I want my entire car to have updates. What is going on in Volkswagen Group?
Right. And with the PPE platform, you would think that might be something that's possible now, right? Because it's updated. It's fewer modules, like more centralized, so more control.
Yeah, it's possible. I definitely was talking to them about software updates for this car. It seems like it's different for each car, and that's tough for them to have multiple platforms on multiple software architectures to manage all those updates. And this is the area where the startup automakers are crushing it, because they've built a software stack that's used in all of their vehicles. And it's just, from a user experience of software, far beyond what this can offer. But maybe that's why people don't like, there's still like a huge car buying market that doesn't care about those little software stuff.
Right. I mean, software is pretty refined in this one. Like you were showing in this video at some point, you can program the percentage of battery that the car tells you can leave if you're on a road trip and you charge it, stopping at DC fast charge stations, you can tell it, I want to leave with 2% battery, out of spec style, right? And so you can do that.
Yeah, so like the user interface software and the EV route planning, and you can watch YouTube in the car, and like that, the HMI stuff is fine. I just wish it had a bigger screen to interact. I actually don't mind PCM. Once you know how the screen works, it's cool. This one runs on an Android operating system, so it should lead to more user interface updates. And I think it's cool that the China version of this car gets its own software, which is kind of interesting. And I think the correct choice, because the Chinese market, just talking to the engineers, is totally, from what services they want to have integrated in the car and everything, is totally different than us. But with that said, it's more of the updates, the modules, the way that the communication of the vehicle all happens, reducing the number of ECUs. That's really not a topic. I don't know. Yeah. It's just, it feels like 10-year-old thought process of making a car work from a software perspective.
Right. Maybe SSP will fix that. That's the next platform at a Volkswagen Group. I don't know. I don't know how involved Porsche is with that particular platform development, or if that's just like an upper level situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mentioned earlier Tom's wife maybe getting a Macan but actually your mom was a former Macan owner, and Craig Matsuda says in the comments, Kyle, isn't this the car your mom wants? Is she getting one? And your dad is also here in the comments. Hey, Craig, Kathy hasn't seen this video yet. Please don't show it to her.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't talked to my mom about this car at all. I don't know if she knows it's out.
You think, is she really enthusiastic about Macan?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's owned a couple Macans.
Right.
She hasn't just even had one. She's had a bunch or a few of them. She likes them, but she also drives a Model Y, and she seems okay with that.
Right. I mean, I'd
Although
be okay
she
with the Model
did
Y
get-
too, but if someone offered me like a Macan, I think I kind of think I'd have to take the Macan over the Tesla.
I think she would not go for it unless it has the NACS port.
Good point. That's not, yeah,
Mhm.
that's fair.
That's a big deal for her. Although she did get stuck at a supercharger the other day. The port wouldn't release from the car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so she was like pulling the emergency release in the trunk, and I'm like, Mom, I've never even heard of this happening. I don't know if it was user error or not. She doesn't supercharge very often.
Right. I've never had that problem myself. Oh, someone's still telling me, is my mic still quiet now?
Yep. If you just go to settings, audio, and then turn off automatically adjust mic volume, you can crank it up.
Turn off or turn on.
Welcome to our audio testing portion of the podcast. Nope. Sounds low.
Just talk louder.
Right. Just
Yeah.
speak up.
Yeah, just turn off automatic and crank it.
Turn off automatic and cranking it.
There we go.
There we go.
Is that
There
not
we go.
too annoying? That's great.
Yeah.
No,
No,
that
that's
sounds
fine.
good.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with my mic situation because, yeah. Anyway. All right. So what else we got to talk about? Anything else about the Macan we want to let people know about? We've said the price is like 78, and the what's the
Turbo's
the top-
105.
105,000 for the turbo, and really the turbo is pretty nice, man. I don't know.
Yeah, just go for it. Just go get the turbo if
Yeah,
you're
and
a driving enthusiast.
And one other cool thing about, you mentioned being able to watch the YouTube video, but the other cool thing is that the screen extends all the way in front of the passenger, so the passenger can watch.
It
have
doesn't
their own.
extend. It's just a separate display.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. It's not a clear glass. It doesn't all run together.
You can see the screens.
Okay. In any case, your passengers can also watch YouTube while the car is going, and the driver cannot see that display. It's hidden somehow. Maybe a coating on the glass or something.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you got to like move over.
Right. All right.
I don't think the car I was testing actually had that. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it did. I don't remember. But yeah, Macan's cool, and yeah, pretty sweet.
Okay. Just one really quick thing. Someone was asking, they wanted to see this. John Check is asking, can you show a picture of the car that
Well,
Kyle is
just so
leasing?
people don't get confused, Francie is leasing it. Well, we're leasing it for Francie as a
Okay.
company car. So it's going to
Right.
be her, and I'm sure it'll get floated around the out of spec team. But this is just going to be a fun experiment as long as she can handle it. And to be honest, I think it's a 50-50 shot they even deliver the car to us.
Oh, really?
I think there might be some VinFast might be emailing the dealer saying, don't let these guys get one, because it all communication stopped like 2 days ago. And then they called me yesterday and they're like, we sold out. And I'm like, but we had one locked in. I flew here. There's no way you had 50 of them on the lot. There's no way you sold out. They're like, we sold out. So I know one of the people involved at Leith, and I called them. They're like, oh yeah, we got 50 of these things. What are you talking about? They didn't sell out. And it turns out they can't deliver them in North Carolina at the moment because the software doesn't allow them to like PDI the car properly. It was a software glitch. And apparently the story now is 2 VinFast engineers are flying to the VinFast dealer to fix the PDI software update process so that they can deliver cars. And that will happen tomorrow morning. And so I hope that we can get one tomorrow afternoon, or worst case Monday morning.
Wow. Okay.
But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Either way, it's going to be a fun story. We need it. I want a car.
Right. That's an adventure. I also wanted to thank William Charles for that donation earlier. Thank you for that. And also Robin Yateman, who tells me to turn up my mic. Thanks, sis.
By the way, the first thing we're going to do with the VinFast is take it to the old out of spec track and do a track day with it.
Oh,
And I have the Model Y Performance. So we'll do a little Model Y Performance versus VinFast track test so that people really get the consumer advice they need.
Abe is talking about that YouTube screen, or the screen in the Macan. Abe says the privacy filter is active when you go into drive for the passenger display.
Cool.
So generally it's not on, and then it activates, I guess, when the car goes into drive, which is pretty awesome technology, I gotta say. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this Macan. It's pretty.
Yeah,
nice.
I think maybe I sound down on this podcast only because I've just thought about, okay, what did I miss in the video that I kind of wanted to get on negative wise, but. I mean, I really think they nailed it. It's fun. It's configurable. It's again, the price is right, and they're just going to kill it. They're going to nail it.
Yeah, one of the things we didn't really talk about, and I don't think it's really been brought up, but we don't know what kind of volumes they're expecting to produce for this car this year. You know, I'm just kind of looking at it because the Macan is a huge seller. I think they sell like close to 80,000 worldwide, globally with this car. That's a lot of units. So are they expecting to do that number to come down by half for the gas? Because they're going to sell the gas version and the electric version for a couple of years probably. So I'm wondering how that's going to affect the sales of the gas vehicle, because it's going to be. I mean, the Macan's biggest competitor seems like it might be the Macan, right?
Right. Yeah, combustion or electric. I'm not sure. Maybe it depends on the market. I certainly think there's going to be a different audience for the combustion one versus the electric one. And the thing is, Porsche doesn't say like Macan EV. It's just the trim level denotes the electric portion. So there's
there's a visual difference, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the car looks different. It's built on a different platform. There's very little similarities.
Right. Except basically that shape and
that rough size and
look.
shape.
It's got a Macan look to it.
I don't
somewhat.
Think, yeah. Sure.
With Taycan headlights or driving lights.
You can tell it's the electric one.
Yeah. All right. So we should move on. But while we're on the topic of EVs from Volkswagen Group, and just because we need to cover the entire spectrum of EVs, I just wanted to mention that there's also a new video featuring Kyle's 2016 Volkswagen e-Golf on the Kyle Connor YouTube channel, going on a mini road trip. Definitely check that out. If $80,000 Porsches leave you cold, we have the it's total whatever the other extreme. So that thing's running now, it's working, and you took it to Denver from Fort Collins, it took a number of recharges. It's only, how far is it to Denver from your place? It's not that far.
It was South Denver, so it was a 145-mile road trip, round trip. Yeah,
but that's about 50 miles farther than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so Denver's normally like 55 miles. This was 70 miles, and these details make a big difference for the e-Golf. Right, so I had to charge, I think, 4 or 5 times. I learned that the e-Golf does not charge on Tesla Magic Dock, and I've learned that my e-Golf does not charge on EVgo Delta City units, because I've learned that the e-Golf handles the proximity pilot differently than any other vehicle, and it freaks out when the charger communicates that it has too much available power, even though it's based on the vehicle request. So I've learned a lot of interoperability issues with the early e-Golfs. The 2017s and up, I think, are fine, but mine's a 2016, which is the first year they sold them in the US. And yeah, so I'm like limited to the chargers that I can use, because new e-Golfs can use Magic Dock, fine, but my car won't work on it.
That doesn't surprise me, because I had, back when the e-Golf first came out, Kyle, I had a lot of my followers asking me for guidance on level 2 chargers, because there were a bunch of level 2 home charging equipment that was not compatible with the e-Golf. And so, it doesn't surprise me that the DC units also have that compatibility issue. And another thing that was interesting, some of them, the reason why they were incompatible, it wasn't necessarily the electronic, the communication. When Volkswagen originally designed the charge port, it was slightly larger than the average J1772 inlet. So some of the J1772 connectors, if they had rubber gaskets, wouldn't fit on, or they'd get them on, they couldn't get them off. So I was just telling people, just get a needle nose plier and pull that rubber gasket out, and that'll give you the extra 1/16 of an inch that you need, as long as you weren't charging frequently in a wet area. Most people charge inside their garage, so you really don't need that rubber gasket. It's really not doing anything. But so it's not surprising that I hear you're having these problems. The e-Golf always had problems with charging.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it shows the need maybe for some. Well, the thing is, like, I don't know how this issue would ever get picked up. It's just interoperability, and the especially for the older EVs that only communicate on DIN 70121 and not like the ISO 15118 stuff. Like, who's going to be tuning their networks for these old crappy cars? But they're on the road, and people rely on them. And I relied on it, and I had to have EVgo like turn on this janky charger that was a different brand just so I could charge because I was at 0%. I didn't think that that EVgo's Delta City units wouldn't charge my e-Golf. That's crazy. But here we are in 2024. We still have interoperability issues. Apparently, they have a fix in the works, though.
And David's asking, have you looked into seeing if any of the execs, I guess he's doing that.
ECUs?
No, I think so.
I'm sorry, ECUs. Yeah. Have any updates or something? I'm sorry. I misread it, thinking like, are the companies dealing with this? I don't think the case. I don't think many will. These older, like, let's say legacy EVs, Chevrolet did this with the Spark EV. Dom knows he had a Spark EV. They were incompatible with Electrify America stations. And GM basically, like, Electrify America was asking GM, help us solve this problem because we want to be able to service your customers. GM was basically, that's we don't sell the car anymore. We're done with it. We're not investing a penny in trying to make this work. And I would imagine a lot of the OEMs are going to have that opinion of their early electric vehicles that they sold in very low volume. They're not going to care about you, the customer. I'm sorry, but they sold a couple thousand of them, and now there's incompatibility issues. They're not going to put a single engineer on that to solve the charging issue of a car they sold 5 years ago on a new charger that wasn't developed with software to be compatible. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's very possible there are updates for that car, though. I just don't know. I haven't heard. So the car is actually in at Volkswagen right now in the dealer, just doing some checks. They were going to run a battery health check official from Volkswagen. I had them fix a couple little things and then Timon's getting the car today, and he's doing a whole new suspension install, coilovers, every new bushing.
Nice.
And then Colton is going to wrap it, I think, this weekend. And it'll be this really cool yellow color. So it's gonna look amazing. It's gonna be the nicest looking shitty e-Golf on the planet. So I can't wait. Can't wait for this.
I was gonna suggest doing a Harlequin wrap.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but talk to Colton quick because I think we've already ordered it'll be like the color of my sweatshirt. I don't know. I wanted a bright color for YouTube thumbnail, and I really like the GTIs, like the Mark 8 in that mustard yellow color.
Always thinking, man. Always my thumbnails, man. I need this color for my thumbnail. That's amazing.
Yeah, Alyssa said I'm not allowed to park it in the driveway. So,
all right. So Tom, you just spent some time this week visiting Lucid out in Arizona, where you got to check out their factory expansion, the new Gravity 3-row SUV, and you even got a teaser of the next Lucid product, which will be something like medium size. So we'll share that image soon that you got to see, and people can guess out kind of what lies beneath the sheet. But maybe you can start by telling us about the factory expansion, since I guess that's the main reason you went there.
Yeah, so Lucid invited a small group of journalists, I guess, and influencers out to their Casa Grande manufacturing facility in Arizona to kind of do a ribbon cutting ceremony for their expanded AMP1 facility. Now, AMP1 is the name of their manufacturing facility in Casa Grande, where they make their vehicles. When it originally opened in December of 2020, I was there. I think I even have a video out on that. That had slightly under 1 million square feet of manufacturing space. And that wasn't big enough for their needs. They actually had some remote locations, like to build the powertrain was like 5 miles away, and they had rented space in other facilities. So everything wasn't under one roof, basically, is what I'm saying. With this phase 2 of the project now being complete, they added 3 million square feet. So they quadrupled the size of the footprint, and now they can bring everything under one roof. They expanded their paint shop. It's much bigger than what it was when it first opened up. this new manufacturing line now can service multiple vehicles. So, for instance, if you were to order a Lucid Air and a Lucid Gravity at once, which is going to be available at the end of the year, supposedly the SUV, basically your vehicles would go down the production line behind each other, and they could do multiple vehicles on the same production line. That's not anything groundbreaking. There's other facilities that can do that. But
was that John Volker who just snapped a photo?
Yes,
right there? That was great.
he's sitting 2 people down from me. If you can see, my head is 2 people away. So
awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, so they had the ribbon cutting ceremony. Peter talked for a while. Rawlinson, the governor of Arizona, talked about how important it is for the area, bringing jobs to the area, and the expansion is only going to bring more high-paying jobs to the area and so forth. It's good. It's good, and I think we all agree that we want to see more manufacturing in the U.S. and this is good for the area. So it was a real upbeat day. Everybody was excited, and we didn't really talk much about the fact that Lucid isn't really selling a lot of cars right now, but they did tell me that they have produced and sold over 10,000 vehicles. That's not groundbreaking. They talked about that before, but really all eyes were on the Gravity. Okay. And I actually spoke to Peter. I got a 10-minute interview with Peter standing in the factory, and that's going to be up on State of Charge over the weekend. We talked about a lot of things. I think it was a good interview, and I basically, I came out and bluntly asked him, people are going to say, Peter, why did you need to quadruple the size of the factory when currently, your sales are pretty low. You're not meeting expectations. You didn't meet guidance. You had to revise guidance. So, why do you need this huge factory? And it's huge. I mean, 4 million square feet's a good size factory. And I had to ask him that, and he, said, look, a lot of people talk about the fact that Lucid's losing money, which we are. He said, we're in a growth phase. And up on the screen now, if you're watching on YouTube, I talked to Derek Jenkins. That's another video I'm going to have out. I do a walk around, and he explains, sort of efficiency through styling and how that design of the vehicle. And there's the Sapphire coming up on the screen again. If you're watching, they had a few Sapphire there. We watched, I watched about 4 or 5 Sapphire going down the production line being built. So I think they said they're going to have about 12 of them built within a month or so, or within a couple of weeks, and ready for delivery. But so, we talked he really talked about how, yes, we're losing money, but don't forget, everybody loses money in the beginning. We're in a growth phase now. We're constantly investing money. Look at this facility, how much this costs to build out. And, we're building factories in Saudi Arabia, and, you have to expect it. Nobody, we all know Tesla. How long did it take Tesla to make money? Now, Tesla's sales were a little bit better early on than what Lucid is saying. But let's see what happens when Gravity comes out. I think Gravity is an exciting vehicle. Personally, I've seen it twice now. I sat in it, played around with it. Obviously, haven't driven it. They only have. I actually thought that they only had 2 or 3 of them, but now I found out right before I left. I think they have about 15 of them made, and testing. Cold weather testing's going on now. I'm not sure if I should say where, but that's going on right now, and they're excited about end of year launch. Now, I noticed you also stopped the screenshot at the next vehicle, which that is, I think Lucid is banking on that being their Model 3 moment, I guess, because while the Gravity is seems to be a really nice, super efficient EV, if it delivers on what they're promising. I mean, we're talking 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour for a 7-seat
It's amazing.
SUV.
It's a really good. This could be good.
Ridiculous. If they can deliver that, more than 440 miles of range with a battery pack that's not that huge. It's about, they wouldn't nail down to Tesla. One thing I don't like about Lucid is they're always a little cagey about the size of the battery. They wouldn't exactly. They said somewhere around the size of the battery pack of the current Air. Maybe between 112, 120 kilowatt hour. So that's
that could be because maybe they don't have the exact cell dialed in yet. There's been a lot of revisions in in this space.
Yeah, no, it could be. But again, when they launched Air, Kyle, and I wanted a finite total capacity, it was kind of like, well, they gave the usable capacity and that's it. I'm like, well, it can't be the same number. Well, it is. We use pretty much the whole battery, but in any event, that's beside the point. Steve Roper brought this up. Corey is working on is Corey Steuben from Monroe that worked for Sandy Monroe for a while. He's a Lucid employee now, working on these future models. So
he's running the program, right?
So his hand is all over this new say mass market mid-size EV. Looks like it's going to be some sort of a crossover. Kind of doesn't look like a smaller Gravity. Like the silhouette to me reminds me of Gravity, because Gravity is kind of like, it reminds me more of minivanish. It's kind of like low and long, not like it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really ooze SUV. But in any event, so that's that vehicle that you see up on the screen there, the midsize vehicle, is supposed to come out in a couple of years. They wouldn't say 2025, 2026. I can't imagine it coming out 2025. It's just a couple years, and it's going to start at about 50,000.
So Tom, can you tell me a little bit about what this new factory expansion is for? Why would they have this many people there? What is the purpose of expanding the facility? I assume some of it has to do with Gravity. Is it also for mid-size? What's going on?
Yeah, it's for future production. They obviously don't need it now. They're making and don't hold me to this. I have a lot of notes, and I just got back last night, and I flew on the red eye, so I haven't had a lot of sleep and everything. Pretty sure what the factory manager said was they're making now 18 units an hour, only one shift, and 4 days a week, and
18 units a day.
A day, I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay.
one shift. No.
An hour. You're right. Sorry.
18 units an hour.
Right.
4 days a week, one shift. And he said, this facility can go to 22 units an hour, 3 shifts, every day. So, they have the capacity to build, maybe, I don't know, I didn't do about 150, 160,000 vehicles a year, which is, tremendously more than what they have now, Kyle, and they could do multiple vehicles on the same line. So hypothetically, in 2.5 years, Air, Gravity, midsize could be going down the same line, and and they have the capacity for it. And
and have they brought the motor and powertrain production over? Yeah. Because that used to be away.
Yeah, it was like 5 miles away. It's all under that same roof now.
Cool.
So the old production line, the old Air production line, they don't produce vehicles there anymore.
Oh, really? That's gone.
Yeah, that's gone. A lot of that got taken over by the new paint shop. The paint shop expanded a lot. So and they upgraded, they learned some things that needed to be refined. So evidently, I mean, this is all, what it costs, investment and stuff like this. The paint shop that's 2 years old, to revamp it, double the size of it and everything. That's basically what they wanted to talk about here is like, look at what we're doing. We're building for our future models. The future models are going to be more high volume.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, it all sounds good. The Gravity is going to be a hit. I think that's really going to be a great seller. I understand why they launched with the Air first for the numbers and everything, but I think right now they're feeling a little bit of that there's pros and cons to everything. I think maybe they're in a bit of that con phase of just having the Air. The Gravity is just, from everything I've seen and heard about so far, and of course I made a video about it, just seems like it's going to be awesome. And I guess the factory expansion is just curious to me. I'm not a manufacturing expert. I care about the car, the final product. So this is just more of an interesting topic, but I can't figure out why they need such a big expansion right now, other than maybe they just have the money now to spend. So they're like, let's just do it while we have the cash to get this done. But I'm not an expert in this area. I just review cars. But it is interesting.
The fact of the matter is they don't need it right now, but you can't wait until you need it to start building it. It takes a while. So, I mean, if you go on their game plan, by the end of this year, they'll be building Gravity. Okay. They still won't be making tons of them. I mean, it'll sell well, but it's still an expensive vehicle. It starts at $80,000. So we're not talking hundreds of thousands of vehicles. And then, a year and a half later, they launched this lower price 50,000, which still isn't like a mass produced vehicle. But if you look at all three of them, I could see, 70, 80,000 vehicles a year being made once you have the midsize done. And that still gives them the capacity to build another 20, 30, 40,000 more than that. So I think they're kind of setting themselves up for the long run here, Kyle. And it's a huge investment, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad move to be ready for future expansion and future models.
Yeah, I totally agree. That makes sense. It's cool. What was the morale like? Did you talk to any of the product guys? Did they seem excited? Do they seem down? The problem I run into is when I talk to viewers, people, especially the investors of Lucid, which I know nothing, I don't follow this at all, but everyone's just a little bit soft on Lucid at the moment, is my impression. The car sales, we keep hearing the stories that they're down. I still think I still see them on the road. I see them out and about. Like I see a bunch of Colorado now. So I'm not sure what's true, what's not, but were people excited? Are they like, yeah, Lucid, I don't like working here? What did the employees say about being there?
Yeah. And it's funny that it's almost as if I asked you ahead of time to ask me that question, which I didn't. So I did spend a lot of time just talking to their employees. Now, besides the executives, because the executives, I spoke at length with Eric Bach. He did a whole walk around and on Sapphire for me. We sat in Sapphire. He talked about all the, even down to the rubber of the tires, how the inside of the tire is softer than the rubber that's on the outside of the tire. And we went into a lot of detail on it.
I just was with him last week and we were nerding out about some motors. He's great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he wasn't there for video, so I wish he would have let me. He's like, Tom, I didn't prepare anything. Let's just you and I just talk cars, because if I could have recorded that, it was fantastic. He and I spent 20 minutes just really talking about everything about Sapphire. That's my only takeaway that I'm disappointed in, because I did the walk around with Derek on Gravity, and then I just spent 20 minutes with Eric, and I don't have anything to show about it. But talking about employees, obviously the Emods, the Erics, the Derek's, super excited. But I actually got to talk to factory workers, because all the factory workers were at this event. There were hundreds of them. It was like a mob, kind of like, you see when Tesla does like their pictures and stuff, all the employees, that's what all the manufacturing, because they were working. It was a work day for them. They're producing the air, and we were at the factory. They just set up a stage. So while the presentation was going on, all the workers walked around. I mean, there was a roped off area for the press and VIPs where we were in, but they were all around us, and we got to talk to them. And Sweet. They all were the whole. And I was talking about Sapphire and everything. They weren't really too into that. They were all into Gravity. That was like, they're like, we got to get this car. We got to get this SUV out. They're like, everybody we talked to in the company is so excited about this SUV. We have to get Gravity out. We're all working hard to get Gravity on the road. That's going to be the vehicle that really, I think, puts Lucid on the map. Even though, I think Lucid's on the map already. They've built an incredible vehicle. I love the Air. I also, as a thank you for going out there, even though it was just a factory, they gave me an Air for like 4 and 5 hours, and I drove all around. I drove out to Tortilla Flat, Arizona. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's just like, it's this winding mountain road, go up a mountain, and then there's this tiny little like historic town. That's like when towns were one street with 5 buildings. It looks like it should be the scene of like a movie, like for a Western. There's like a bar and like, a general store and stuff. Really cool area. And I got to really rip an Air for a while out in these desert roads and everything. And it just reminded me how amazing of a car it is. I haven't driven the Air for a while, and it just absolutely, that was me. I stopped for a few pictures in the area, and it just drives so well. The Air, they built an incredible vehicle, and I'm looking forward to Gravity. You put Gravity next to, say, R1T. I think the adventure people are going to go for R1T, obviously, the people that, outdoorsy folks. But, if you want a 7-seat SUV and you're not into camping and fishing and overlanding, I think you got to go with Gravity.
Well, that'll be interesting, because at that point, do you go EV9? Do you go Gravity? Do you go R1S? And actually, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but top spec EV9 with like heated and cooled second row seats. It's 84 grand or 83 grand or something like that. Colton is actually cross shopping those three. And so he's waiting, another year or so for the, everything to happen. But I think we're actually going to pick up an EV9 as a long-termer. So we'll have one here starting next week or something like that for 6 months. I think it's not finalized, but that's what it sounds like it's happening. And so we'll at least get a lot of EV9 stuff. I was hoping we would still have it when Gravity comes out so we can do like a race to Vegas between the two.
If you're interested, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you actually had a new video with EV9 with Jordan doing presentation, going all over the car. He was on the official first drive event, I believe. And that video actually, really put me over the edge towards to the Gravity. I think the Gravity.
I hadn't seen the video. What
it has
about
more utility? Yeah, it just points out there's a few things with the captain's chairs in the second row that makes them not very useful. He was telling me that as well. I guess I didn't. Yeah, I mean, we're not. The car what we really need is a Suburban that's electric. Like we need a big those are coming. Cadillac Escalade IQ is
but it needs to be long wheelbase Escalade IQ. I mean, I guess I think
it is. I think the IQ is like the long base, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know, but it's going to be 170 grand the way you want it spec.
Right. Yeah, we have to wait for
get me the Suburban
Chevrolet version of that.
But I still want the big 240 kilowatt hour pack in that Suburban is going to be the jam. That's going to be awesome. I don't give a crap about efficiency. I just want fast road tripping with a trailer, and that's going to be that.
Well, you see that, and Kyle just summed it up there. Like when you said, comparing it to EV9 or R1S, it depends on what you're looking for. I don't think any of us can say, oh, that's, get the Gravity over this. It really all depends what you're looking for. But I will say this, if interior comfort and design and style is something that you weigh heavily on. And I actually weigh heavily on it because I spend most of my time in the cabin, looking around, touching, feeling the comfort. In my opinion, Tom Light's opinion, you can't compare EV9 to Gravity. You just can't. It's like, a Honda sitting in a Honda or sitting in a Mercedes. That's the difference that I feel with the Kia quality versus, say,
I totally agree. I think
of the Gravity.
I've sat in both too. The Lucid is far superior in every visual and touch point area. But I think families just need paper. It's going to be an interesting one. I can't wait to do the videos on that. It'll be really, really fun.
Right. Yeah, there's an interesting market shaping up here. It's kind of weird to be comparing like Kia with like a luxury brand.
The thing is, it's like, okay, Gravity starts where the EV9 ends, right? So it's the next step up. It's the next category. But that, do you go base Gravity and stretch into a Lucid, or do you go maxed out EV9? I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that definitely will. We'll be cross-shopped in that regard. People that can have the budget that's right on the edge of both, the spec'd out EV9 or the base Gravity, And like I said before, it's all going to depend on what your priorities are. Is it, the road tripping? Is it comfort? Is it what do you want? But it's, and this goes back to what I said early on when we were talking Macan. It's just so fantastic that now I've been following EVs. I've been reporting on them for 15 years. I've been driving them since 2009. And it was either get a Tesla or get this little 110 mile Econobox. And now we're getting all these options, which is what we need in the market.
Abe mentions the need to pass the sippy cup spill test and Cheetos everywhere in the second row seat. Yeah, but just thinking of Abe because he's with Porsche. So you mentioned the Porsche earlier, the Big Mac Daddy, bigger than the Cayenne. That could be an interesting. It might end up being a higher end than the Gravity actually too.
I think it's going to be more like a BMW XM competitor, like $150,000 plus ultra luxury. Status symbol, maybe like Urus territory type thing.
Right.
That's my guess. I don't know exactly what it'll be, but I think it's going to be not in this category.
Right. It's a weird kind of place for Porsche because I think, Porsche sports car, how do you put that sort of heritage into a huge SUV, because you have to have some of that in there. You can't just be like a posh, sloshy, it can't be a Rolls Royce. It's going to be different from that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. All part of the fun of engineering a car, I guess. But but Tom, I'm really glad to hear that your Gravity visit went well. I've been on the outside, I hear so many different things about Lucid. I hear I hear hardcore Lucid investors that have now left. And on the other hand, I hear the technical guys and even the folks inside of Lucid that are like, you don't understand what we're working on. This is next level. This is great. And when I drive the cars, I'm always reminded that their technical competence is from a chassis engineering, from a braking system, from a powertrain. I mean, the way these cars pull is crazy. And to be honest, I have not driven Sapphire yet. I really need to have a go in Sapphire because I think that will set the performance electric vehicle benchmark. And it's on sale, so it may have, but I really want to get it on track and do a track comparison of Taycan Turbo S, Sapphire, and Plaid. I think would be a really fun video to do later on this year.
It looks great. The seats are great. The seats are so comfortable. And it has an interesting feature in the headrest. The headrest, there's a secondary pad on the headrest that you can pull in and out. And it's meant so you could push it all the way back if you have a helmet on.
Hell yeah.
So I mean, they're, they want you to drive this the way you want to drive it, Kyle.
Good. I know. And I talked to the Lucid guys and they're like, we literally, like, if there's one car for Kyle, this is the car because you won't overheat it. You can do anything you want to. It's got unlimited power, huge brakes. I'm like, this is like made for me.
Yeah. Eric talked about the overheating stuff and everything. There's settings, the drive mode settings will adjust to try to prevent the vehicle from ever overheating. And it depends on, how you want to do it. Do you want to rip, just a quarter-mile run, or do you want to have sustained track time? So I mean, they're thinking of all that, and they, as you said, their engineering team and what they've done. I don't think people appreciate what Lucid is and how advanced their tech is for a startup.
Well, it shows that their sales and marketing may need some work then, if that's really the case, because I went through that process. So did my dad, where we both had pretty lame sales experiences. And it just was not great working with them. And it's a new company and they have to work on their training, and maybe the next product they can get it all together and go, because the product, which is where my wheelhouse is, just seems awesome. And I know you were reminded of that recently on your trip, because going up in the canyon roads in an air, there's almost nothing that defies physics more than that.
Yeah. I mean, I just wish I was familiar with the roads more, because first time when you're on driving something like that, you're always a little hesitant, when they're blind curves and you're on a mountain and there's no guardrails, it's like, all right, I'm going to have some fun, but maybe not too much fun. I want to go home. But it was a lot of fun. And like I said, it reminded me how amazing the car is. It's an amazing car, the Air. It really is. It's if Lucid came out first, you talk about Model S sales, like they're early on, you'll look at how they ramped up. Model S had no competitors. If you wanted a long range electric vehicle that charged well and could actually road trip, back when Model S came out, that was it, because it was like Model S and these little 83-mile EVs. And but now when Lucid launched, they had Model S, which was an established benchmark, long range, fun to drive, sports sedan. And then you have the companies like BMW, Mercedes, Audi coming into the established brands, putting electric vehicles on the market. If Lucid was like 4 or 5 years earlier, I think we would have seen a little bit of a different play with Air sales personally, but that's speculation.
I mean, it reminds me of the whole conversation. There was a big conversation back in the early 2000s, maybe even the 90s. Like people like Bob Lutz really championed, make a good product. Don't worry about the sales; that'll happen. Just make the product. Get that dialed in, make that good. As opposed to counting, whatever. All the accounting nerds just selling whatever they can get cheap, just volume, worrying more about the margins, not, whereas Lutz was very much just product focused, and so Lucid is also very product focused, and they've got a great product.
Extremely product focused. Well, that's what happens when you have an engineer as the lead of your company. Right. So what I hope happens for Lucid is Gravity. I think they learned a lot from the Lucid Air. They learned that, okay, Lucid Air, they had 95% of the car dialed, but when you really dug into some user experience things, software little really niggles. Okay, the last 5% of total package quality matters. And so you got to really spend a lot of time dialing in the car. And that's what the German automakers all obsess over. But right. While you're doing that, you can't give up on the extreme efficiency and range and charging performance that those cars have had. So I hope they get there, and I'm sure they will. My hope in the future is that people and Lucid will understand how important software is for their experience. Once they start to have this total ecosystem, they can have a Lucid charger with power sharing where you can go bi-directional, and then you can have, another Lucid car. Your phone is a key that works, and the ecosystem of their solar and battery pack storage, the thing that works for Tesla. Once you get people to buy into the Lucid family, into that ecosystem, it's a bit like Apple. Then you can't leave.
Right. So
it's funny you mentioned the bi-directional charging. So they gave me the bi-directional charging cable.
Oh,
with my car, and I was having so much fun driving it, I forgot it was in the trunk. I didn't even take a picture of it.
You're fired.
And I'm like the only one they gave it to. That everybody else, they just gave them the car. So they're like, Tom, we put the bi-directional cable for you in the trunk, so you can play around with that. I didn't even look at it. I just forgot.
Well, don't tell anybody.
But yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody that. But that said, I did say, hey, I didn't have time to do anything with this. You got to get me one and a car, and we're arranging that now. They're going to get me an Air here in New Jersey with the bidirectional cable, so I can make some cool videos. So I might even have a Tesla run out on the highway somewhere so I can pull up and
people are going to hate you for that.
People hate me already.
No,
so
it's like a non-controversial car to run out. Run out.
No, it's got to be a Tesla. It's got to be a Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So speaking of Tesla, Wednesday they released their 2024 Q4 financial results. The stock price tanked by 12% due to missed estimates and a call with analysts that was described by some as a train wreck. But putting all that noise aside, we did learn. I didn't think it was that bad, actually. I listened to the thing. It wasn't. It was just typical, Elon being, talking very optimistically about the future, machines making machines and all that kind of stuff. I didn't think it was a particularly big train wreck, but putting all that stuff aside, we did learn stuff about Tesla's next product, which is kind of exciting. It's not here yet, but I thought we should at least, Tesla's an important company in this space, the most important company, really, I think, outside of China. And, it's good to be on the kind of what's coming. So now we have some ideas. So what Elon Musk referred to as its next-gen low-cost vehicle is apparently codenamed Redwood, and Tesla will begin production of it in the second half of 2025 at Gigafactory Austin, which is not not long from now. That's like a year and a few months, basically, right? So it will also be produced at a factory in Mexico, and then there are plans for yet another factory on a different continent, which its location hasn't been disclosed yet. The next-gen architecture for that vehicle is internally called NV9X, which I don't know if there's some weird hidden meaning behind that. NV9X, it just sounds cool, and that will have at least 2 models. So I think originally we're expecting a compact crossover, I believe was mentioned. And they have mentioned before last summer, I believe Musk said something about it. It was in the biography by Walter Isaacson that the next one would be a compact crossover, more conventional, easier to build, except it's going to have some cyber truck inspired design. And and Musk was on the call saying that it's going to be easier to build, except they're going to have to invent a whole new production method for it. So I don't know what. Yeah. So I don't know. Tom, do you have any confidence Redwood will begin production next year?
Confidence, no. Hope, yes.
Okay.
From what we understand, Tesla has started notifying suppliers that they will need production starting mid 2025. So, start you're planning to have the supplies ready. So, it's, what do you mean by production? Is that is that when they're going to first start making some of the cars to test, in volume, and they're still 6 or 7 months out? Tesla's never, except for Model Y, never really delivered on time, and or even a little early. I think Model Y was a little early.
Model Y was early, yeah.
Yeah, and but then they took a step up for Cybertruck. But Cybertruck is such a unique vehicle. I can't criticize them for that. And they did the whole thing during COVID when we had all kind of supply chain problems and factories being shut down and so forth. So I give them a pass with Cybertruck because it's such a weird vehicle, such difficulty in manufacturing. That would be fantastic. We were all waiting for this car from Tesla for years, the affordable, mass-produced Tesla. I mean, Model 3 was kind of that, but it's still not, really affordable for a lot of Americans. That that the average American can't afford a $45,000 car. So that you've got to get it down under 30,000. And if it's a $25,000 EV that has good range, even if it's not that big, and it's got that T on the hood, they won't be able to make them fast enough. So hopefully next year, but it's still a little bit of a ways off. I wouldn't bet the house on it.
Right. You have any quick Redwood thoughts, Kyle, at all, or not? Okay. So I also mentioned on the call that FSD beta version 12 will be rolling out. So
well, it is out.
Yeah, right. It has started rolling out to a few people, but it's going to be rolling out to the 400,000 FSD beta owners in the US over the next few weeks, apparently.
Wait, so they just choose the most Tesla friendly people to send it to first to make really glowing video reviews of it? Is that a thing?
Employees, and then Omar.
You're saying that facetiously, right?
Yeah, of course.
I believe. I think Omar is well known for being one of the first to get the updates and getting a lot of.
Which
attention.
I don't mind that he gets the updates. I just wish it would be known that it's like, okay, I got the update because I'm going to show it doing well. And if you go into it with that view, no one should be upset. That's fine if you want to just show the highlights. But
he always puts up videos and. It looks like there's no, what do you call it?
Nag. No, there was a nag in this one. I watched one of the 12 ones. And
I stopped watching it because I don't really.
Well, the one thing that I realized that I don't like, and I'm not singling out Omar. Actually, I kind of like Omar. I think he's cool. But anyway, the problem with the FSD videos is when they're sped up, you're not experiencing the hesitation time or the weirdness. And I watched in one of his videos that the left turn signal was on for 5 minutes or something crazy. And these are the little things that just drive me insane as a driver. I'm just everyone around me thinks you're an idiot on this stuff. So that kind of stuff, I wish the real FSD beta test guys would try and dial in this last 5% of how the car communicates with people around you. Because I've had FSD on my cars. We have the Model X has it now at home, and it's I just don't use it personally. But I'll try it when FSD 12 comes out. We'll make the videos, and I'm really actually excited to see what it's like.
Right. And as some of you know, I have a Tesla Model 3 with FSD beta, and I've been running it through a test loop in Tallahassee for the past year. So I'll be doing my dude loop, as I call it. Just as soon as my car download, I'm off, because this is end-to-end AI now. They've got rid of they keep saying 300,000 lines of code. It's all AI, basically. Takes in images of what other cars do and then processes that. And I don't know. It's a whole brave new world. It was supposed to be. Elon had said version 12 would mean it's no longer in beta, but that's not the case either. It's still FSD beta, even version 12. So that's
I know he said that in the past. Is that still his line, that it's no longer beta?
No, it says beta.
Not anymore. No, it's
okay.
beta. It still says beta. So I guess that's off the wayside or whatever, because version 12 was supposed to be the actual autonomous vehicle thing, and it's not. There's still issues, from what I've heard. I haven't watched I guess you watched the video, Kyle. And there's
I just glanced over it on Twitter, and some of the things, of course, what it can do is so impressive. And then sometimes I'm just why is the left turn signal on this whole 4 blocks?
Right. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. I'll do my dude loop, and then I'm gonna go see what it does with the school zone, because that's a hugely important thing where it's always fallen down. It does not recognize school zones, and that's a hugely important kind of thing that an autonomous car is going to need to be able to do, I think. No, I think I know. You know, you can't have autonomous cars running through school zones at whatever speeds. That just doesn't fly at all. Okay. So anything else we want to talk about with FSD? Probably not. Tom, see where we're at. Anything else going on real quick?
Yeah, and I should mention, I mean, we're just singling out Omar because that's where we've gotten the comments from. But someone commented, Yaz commented. He also posts 1X videos. I'm sure they're harder to digest. And then, yeah, I have seen him post negative things. I'm not saying that he's not an accurate reviewer. I've not done any of the studies. I follow his page, but all I'm saying is I just wish we would see a little bit more push to dial in the little stuff that just seems so minor.
Right. I mean, he does the videos he does are kind of interesting because you do see it performing flawlessly. But I just know when I do my test loops, I have so many issues that maybe if I don't have the audio on and I don't talk about them, a lot of people, you can't really tell that the car is like doing this weird thing, at a stop. It doesn't really translate, So I usually talk about that, and other people don't necessarily get into that kind of detail. Yeah. Anyway,
so you asked me if there's anything else. One of the things I want to mention, we had a couple people ask, did Tom give away the charger yet?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was for the Cybertruck sales. No, I haven't, because I don't have a number of we don't know exactly how many Cybertrucks were delivered in 2023. I assume that has to come out in the quarterly earnings reports, right? So as soon as that happens, we'll and I know a number, I'll give that away. And that's going to be a Grizzly charger. But if you remember, maybe 4 or 5 podcasts ago, I mentioned here that I'm going to give away an Emporia charger, and to send me an email. I haven't given that away yet, but I am going to announce the winner on next week's podcast. And I've gotten you don't have to send any more emails. The last count was over 150 emails I got from people saying, this is why because I asked people to tell me why you need a charger. So many of them are so legitimate, and people that either can't afford one or had problems and have they're charging their EV level 1 for the last 3 years, and so unfortunately there's going to be a lot of non-winners. I won't call you losers, but I will say I'm going to continue giving away chargers. In 2024, my goal is to give away at least 20 to 25 chargers. So it might be like 2 a month, either on my YouTube channel here on Batteries Included, on Twitter. I'm working with some of the charger manufacturing companies and telling them, hey, you want me to mention your brand? This is how you do it. Give my followers free charging. So I'm gonna continue to try to do this as much as possible. As many as these companies will give me, I'll give you.
That's awesome. That's great, Tom. Thank you. Actually, too, before too much time has passed, I wanted to bring up a video that you made to our audience's attention. Excuse me. It was titled the EV Politics Project: Getting More Republicans into Electric Vehicles. So not to get political, of course.
Well, this is getting political, Dom.
I mean, it's so there may be a political divide when it comes to electric vehicles, somewhat. And your guest Mike Murphy is trying to get more Republicans into EVs. So, and actually, I just want to mention that just spending some time on Threads, there are a lot of left-leaning Democrats or whatever people out there who are just not, EVs haven't really entered their mind yet. They're just so both, I would say both sides. There's room to grow the EV audience everywhere, but what was this his approach here?
So yeah, and I can't tell you how many people sent me initially when the video went up, sent me emails like Tom, you don't touch the third rail in politics. You seem to be very well liked in the EV community. You're gonna if you get into politics, no matter what you do, half the people are going to hate you or are going to maybe unfollow you or whatever. And I actually thought about this for a while, and I was concerned about it. And nobody's been willing to really take on this topic. And I decided I think I might be a good person to do that. And so it wasn't, I wasn't coming from a point of saying what's wrong with Republicans, why don't they like EVs. What I was hoping to do was open this conversation. So this guy, Mike Murphy, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's been a Republican strategist for many years. He's very well known. He's been on like all of the talk shows on TV as a pundit also. And he served as like campaign manager for like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he ran for governor of California, for Mitt Romney, for all W. Bush. Like he's as entrenched in Republican politics as anyone. So he also recently had the EV epiphany. It was like, these things are great, and he's always talked about why he was a car guy he grew up in Detroit. He's always been in car culture and everything. And he used to make fun of EVs. And he used to say, my gas guzzler runs on Priuses. We grind them up and I put them in the gas tank and liquefy them, and that's what I power. But then he got into driving EVs, and he's like, these things are great. How come so many of my friends and colleagues are so down on EVs? So he was like, I have to try to figure this out. And so he started this thing called the EV Politics Project. And and what he did was he's running a lot of polls to really try to get into why is this? Is it just total tribalism where a lot of Democratic politicians seem very bullish on electric vehicles, on instituting mandates, on banning internal combustion and all this stuff. So if they like it, we have to hate it. Is that the core of this? What is the core of it? Because I tell you, and I've never really talked about this anywhere. I'm a registered Republican. That probably surprises a lot of people. But I've always voted. I've never let my party dictate who I vote. I have voted for Democrats in the past. Early on, when I was younger, it was pretty much straight Republicans. But I've kind of moved to the center in the last, say, 20 years. And now I'll go either side. I vote for the person, not the party. And I wish more people would do that. But that's neither here nor there. I've had people mock me when I've gotten out of my EVs in the past, like in a parking lot or whatever, and I'm sure that person assumed that like I was this total left-wing lib that, hates, the right and all this stuff. And, that was always just like, why would somebody feel the need to like make a comment to me in a parking lot about my car? What's got them so angry with this car that they feel like they have to comment, and I think Mike felt that same thing. So he wanted to try to get to the root of it. So he's starting this EV Politics Project. And what he's trying to do is try to get more Republicans into EVs and make this pull down the tribalism of electric vehicles, because they're good for this country. They're good for, every penny that we spend to fuel our electric vehicles stays in the US. It's local, regional, the electrical companies, the linemen that build out infrastructure, that's all domestic dollars. It stays in our local economies. When you buy gas, I don't know what it is anymore, but it used to be 62 or 65 cents of every dollar leaves our economy, goes overseas. And we spend billions, every week on fuel. So, in that reason alone, every American should say that, this is good for the country. Now, I still don't like one because I don't want to run out or whatever, but I think it's good if we transition. When EVs can suit my needs, I'll buy one. But we're not at that point now. We're at that point where a lot of people hate EVs. And I think it's mostly because they feel like they're being forced on them. And they feel like they're being forced on them by the left. And we hate the left, so we hate EVs. And Mike's trying to tear down those walls. And it's interesting what he's going to really focus on and here's the interesting thing. Elections, and Mike talks about this in our video. As a strategist, he knows all this. He's, most of the votes in this country don't matter for national elections, which is interesting. he said, what it comes down to is every election comes down to about 2 million people in 5 or 6 states. And he goes, when I look at the breakdown of these states, those states are the states that are actually getting the most federal funding right now for the investment of infrastructure, for battery factories. Automakers are building factories to build the EVs and build battery technology in those states. He's like, it's really interesting that these battleground states right now seem to be the biggest states for EV investment. So he's like, so we're gonna mobilize in these states, and we're gonna try to better promote electric vehicle adoption in some of these states where are getting a tremendous amount of funding. Like we're going to these factories and asking people, your bread and butter, you're making money building batteries. How come you won't buy one? An electric vehicle. So anyway, he's got the EV Politics Project website, and then he has a separate website for EV Republicans. It's just an interesting topic. I'm glad he's taking it on. I'm going to work with him more in the future on some projects, hopefully, because I'd like to better understand why we have a high percentage of the population that say they won't even consider an EV ever. I'd like to try to help flip that script.
Right, and as I mentioned before, it's not just Republicans that need to, need to get more into EVs. There's plenty of Democrats out there as well.
Well, Mike's not concerned with them.
Right, yeah.
He's a tried and true Republican, and he wants more Republicans to understand this is good for the country.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for that, Tom. Appreciate it. And that video is up on your State of Charge channel if people want to check that out. That's great.
It was a really, really good video.
Thanks. Right. I appreciate that, because I was concerned going into it, because content creators like Kyle and I and you are, Dom, when politics is something that people are afraid to go into, and nobody's really gone out there and talked about this that I know of, at least. And, I was a little concerned that, all of a sudden you'd see my sub list all of a sudden start to go negative on my YouTube channel. And, my YouTube followers drop, my Twitter followers drop, or X followers drop, because that happens when you touch this. Politics and religion are two things that you almost don't want to discuss if you're making your money being, a public figure. But I thought, as I said earlier, I thought I might be the guy that can take this on and do it, in a way that people say, okay, that was a fair discussion.
Yeah, right on. All right. So anything else we want to talk about? And you got anything else, Kyle? All right. Well, why don't we just call it then? Let me just find this thing. And all right, so if that brings us to the end of our show, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up, click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you all again very soon. Ciao.